PJ. And if that wasn't the very first run, it was definitely like that was definitely the first year I was doing commentary. But I
Mm.
definitely have a lot of difficulty commentating my own run. I just need to put full on focus into playing the game,
Mm.
so that's still something that I have a lot of difficulty doing. But I was at the time I was watching PJ's ActRaiser 2 runs. I think that might have been the year where I commentated Jorf's Kid Icarus run. I might have my own history messed up, but I want to say those are the first couple like big runs that I commentated at GDQ. Um, and I realized that I just absolutely loved those runs and loved and I just wanted to I knew how they worked so well, especially with Kid Icarus, which I had speedrun before, that I just wanted to speak to them and kind of like get the knowledge out there, and I felt like I had enough knowledge and was comfortable enough public speaking that I would be able to do so.
Yeah, like that Kid Icarus one is one of my favorites for sure. Like,
Mhm.
how do you? Is it just like was it in your head like all that stuff? How did you prepare to do that to get the information out there in a way you did?
So Kid Icarus is a very technical game with a lot of stuff to know. Even though it's like 25 to 30 minutes, that's the kind of game where I never run out of stuff to talk about. They're like both from how the glitches work to kind of how the intended in place mechanics of the game work. There's just so much to know to the history of the speedrun. There is just so much to know. Um, and so I really just kind of, what I usually do is I will kind of divide the game into its individual levels and think, okay, what makes this level unique? What are the viewers going to be seeing for the first time in this level that they haven't seen before? And often, I mean, obviously in the very first level, they're just going to be acquainted with the game. Many viewers will never have seen it before. Many viewers will remember it vaguely from their childhood, and just remember, wow, this is such a hard game. So it's just kind of thinking about all these different, and they're speedrunners as well. So it's just really thinking about all these different audiences and how to make it as relatable as possible. This kind of make this technical information as relatable as possible so that everybody can enjoy it. And with Kid Icarus, that's not too difficult to do just because there's so much that you can talk about, because each individual level kind of sort of introduces something new, and if it doesn't, you can just kind of speak to what the viewer will be seeing in that level. Not if not for the first time, just what that level might kind of focus on. So it's really just
Wow.
breaking these individual levels out and kind of thinking about what the viewer would want to know about for each one.
Wow, like, I think like the thing that comes to mind when like, you doing a couch is really professionalism, right? So you kind of really take it to you think look how deep you took it right there. That's how I think some couches don't have that kind of that level, which is fine. I mean, sometimes you want to have a funny
Hmm.
everyone laughs LOL couch, but someone of the past guest said I was going to talk about this at the end, but I want to bring it up now because you kind of set that the wheels in motion here. Uh, RY Goose said like GDQs are the biggest stage for people on Twitch, for speedrunners on Twitch, right? The biggest stage there is. And I think some people say bad stuff about GDQs. Oh, they're getting too boring, too safe. But isn't some of the onus on the runners to take it as seriously as you do to make GDQs as awesome as they can be?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, all GDQ can do for the most part is accept runs, you know? And so I
Mm.
do think that, I mean, they can try and make the game selection more diverse, certainly. But it is also ultimately up to the runner and commentary to put on a good show. And I do think that commentary is really like one of the most important parts of being able to enjoy a run. So I think that overall, yeah, I would agree that that it is on the runner and commentator to kind of put on a good show. And beyond that, GDQ can just kind of select games.
And how about like what do you think are the good what are the elements that make a good run? Like what kind of what are the things you need to have like okay this is a good run for the average watcher?
It certainly needs to be. Well, we have values like a nostalgia, certainly. But assuming that the viewer has never seen the run before, um, it would just need to be kind of. It needs to be impressive not by telling you about it, but just by seeing it, and then the commentary can just kind of elaborate on that and kind of tell you what is going on. And yeah, you're seeing this really impressive show, but and this is all you need to know that's actually going on behind it. But for sure, it needs to be relatable and kind of accessible. I think that races automatically kind of do a lot of the work for you in that regard, just because if you see two runners side by side, given the right game, it's often very easy to see, wow, that runner is only a screen in front of the other one. But wait, the other runner just kind of pulled ahead, and it's just can become very, very clear just how close a race is. So I think races do a really good part of that. Some of my, certainly, I think my favorite GDQ runs have been races, just for that reason. And let's see, commentary definitely does play a big part in that. But really, a lot of it is just kind of making it accessible to the viewer and making sure that they understand what's going on and are excited by what's going on.
Some people can naturally have a good show, right? And some
Yeah.
people don't have put zero work and it's still like an awesome, entertaining
Right.
run, right? But some people don't think as much about when they don't have that natural, the natural kind of ability to be a showman or showwoman. That it kind of they don't think about as much as you do. So what kind of, let's say a lot of people just put it in a runs. We just got the list of accepted runs for this next GDQ. How about if someone's there, what can they do to make sure they put on a good run? What's kind of something they can do to prepare that might help them have a better run than if they didn't prepare?
One big thing that I try and stick to, and I think this is actually a criticism of me by some viewers, that I try to basically make there be no silence throughout the run. I want to make sure that there's always something to talk about. And I almost view silence as unacceptable to some degree. So to one extent, I just try and prepare my commentary to make sure that there's always something to talk about. Like if I mentioned before that I kind of plot out the different individual levels. If there's a level where it's just like, what am I going to talk about? Then I have to think of something to talk about that level, or I just plan it out ahead of time and say this is when they can read donations. But I really just always want to keep the viewer engaged. I always want to keep the viewer kind of learning more stuff about the game. So really, it's all in the preparation for me, making sure that there's always something to talk about. Beyond that, if there's something, I make sure well ahead of time that if I'm confused by any aspect of the game or I want to get into the kind of more technical aspect of a certain piece, then I contact the runner and ask them to tell me a bit more about it. And I mean, the runners they play these games over and over, so they're so excited to talk about them. So they're more than willing. But yeah, it's just making sure that there's always something to talk about. And if you don't know what to talk about, kind of asking the runners to go into a bit more detail about something.
Awesome. Okay, let's put the couch commentary seminar a little break for that
Sure.
for a second. So let's go. So I saw when I was doing research for the show, I always do intense research for every show, obviously, and I found 2 Twitch names. Now, before the interview, I asked you why do you have 2 Twitch names, and you told me an interesting answer, which was to keep your Twitch small. And you want to elaborate on that? Why would you do that? It seems such an opposite thing for most people on Twitch. Why would you keep your stream intentionally small?
Yeah, it's odd, and I don't know how to describe it, but essentially, just growing my stream has never been a real priority for me. And as kind of as I gained more followers, I only found that to be more of the case. Like I was only less interested in streaming. Often I don't check chat. When I do check chat, I mostly just really get excited by seeing kind of familiar names and friends pop by. And while meeting new streamers is always awesome, I wasn't interested in growing my stream. So I did end up, and after GDQ, a lot of people started, and I was just playing like really weird games. I was getting back to blind racing, which was my passion at the time. A lot of people were just wondering, like, why are you doing this? Just go back to the games that we want you to play. And I didn't, especially given that growing my stream was not one of my priorities. I just felt like, I'll just create a kind of private stream, and anyone that knows about my stream and wants to watch it can view me there. But truthfully, I mean, growing my stream was never a focus of mine, and I was never too excited by that. But I can absolutely see why it is a priority for many people.
So okay, that makes sense. After you had this kind of the Kid Icarus run, and then you did the Mario race run, commentating, you kind of pulled away from runs yourself and just kind of became this